68.
We're on page 68. 68.
Okay, Manager Dodge, I'll reconvene our meeting, our workshop. And just to let everyone know, the mayor had some other commitments he had to be at, and I'm filling in for him at this moment. So we would continue with Chief Cody Thetford with emergency management. Go ahead, Chief.
Thank you, sir. We'll move right into this. I've got Joe Kajiboski in the other room. He's going to help out a lot with this. He does report to me for emergency management, but we work together a lot on this year-round. Yes, sir. Okay, Joe, you want to come in here?
Okay, I'll be right there.
Or two. He can be mayor for a minute.
Yeah, there's 2 empty spots.
So he does it.
He does. So while he's getting ready, yes, me and Joe work together. We tackle emergency management, we tackle fire department stuff, emergency response, airport, and everything in between. So I'm going to let him go through these with you, and I'll just be here for support.
Okay, so can everybody hear me okay?
Yes.
Right, so on our tactical plan, the first part is work with the emergency notification system to ensure residents and visitors are signed up to receive notifications and provide links to ensure they have access to emergency resources. So we have our emergency notification system. So in the past, we've utilized the LED sign by the fire station to advertise how to register. We've used social media posts. We've used the emergency notification system to do that. And I've participated in some events throughout the couple years that I've been here. I know 2020 was a different year because of the COVID, that we didn't have a whole lot of like the garden show and stuff like that. But we are ready to start up again with any of those special programs that we have. So what we need to do and what we're going to be working on in the future is continuing to make sure everybody's able to sign up and get signed up. I'm going to work with the PIO, Carrie, and her crew to make sure that our website is up to date on all the links like Ready, Set, Go, Defendable Space, any other items like that that are on the fire department and emergency manager's website. And today I actually received a call from the United Forest Service, and they're going to put our link to the Call Me Ruidoso on their website as well. So they're going to be advertising for us to sign up as well.
Great, that's good. So, Joe, on that note, is there a way for us to check if we're still signed up? Because to come think about, well, I don't know when the last time I got a notification call, but it's been some years since I received one. But I also, had a few people say, do I need to re-sign up? I changed my number, and of course I say, yeah, if you change your number.
Yeah, if they change their number, they're going to have to re-sign up. They can actually contact myself. I can go in and update stuff as well, or I can check. I can go in on the Alert Sense site and check and see if they're actually still signed up and make any changes necessary, or you can go in on the Alert Sense site and check your activation, make sure you're on there. There is a link on there to check to see if you're still registered.
Okay.
Joe, Mayor Pro Tem, correct me if I'm wrong, Joe, so on the Alert Sense and then the reverse 911, if they're receiving the PSAs and the information you put out for water leaks and such, we're going to use the same system in case of evacuations and notifications.
Correct.
The same as the radio station.
Correct. And what we did last year, and I think we're going to work on it this year, I haven't discussed it with Chief Thetford or Manager Dodge, but last year in April, we actually put out a test ENS right before wildfire season.
Yeah.
To make sure everybody received it, and hopefully that they did. If we can put that out on social media that we're going to do that test at a certain time, we'll do that, and let people know if they didn't receive the notice to contact, either to go sign up or contact the emergency management manager to make sure they get signed up.
Okay.
And we'll do that in conjunction. Usually we did it last time in conjunction with one of the siren test days as well.
Okay.
And so where do we go to sign up?
The link on the village's website is Call Me Ruidoso.
Call me Ruidoso, okay.
Thank you.
Yes, sir. Any more questions on that section? The next section is also called the emergency notification system, but this is focusing on more on the outreach with the sirens. So last year we had put on there on the plan to install 3 sirens. We actually were able to get funding for 2. So we have added 2 additional sirens. One is up on Pikes Peak by the water towers, and one is over by Grindstone. Where is that at, Chief?
Middle Fork and South Fork Road right there on the northeastern edge there where all the new construction and homes are going up. Right up there where the water tanks are, there's a brand new 54, 55-foot siren. And then at the top of Meacham at Pikes Peak, a Swiss Chalet.
And these are new, up-to-date,
Loud.
Yeah, I can hear the
sirens. They stand about 6 foot tall, so they're really big, up-to-date, high-tech sirens. We'd like to...
So where would the third one go?
We'd talked about putting one at one time in the Gavilan Canyon, somewhere along Gavilan Canyon to notify people through there.
Okay.
So we just didn't have the funding at that time. These things ran about $15,000 to $20,000 a piece with installation and everything. So we were able to just do 2 at this time. And then also looking at that, we'd like to try to get that third one put in, hopefully within the next year or so, if we can get the funding for that. But we're needing to maintain all the current ones. We have the other 9 we have, because we have 11 now, and that with these 2 we just added gave us 11. We had 9, that gave us 11, and they range in age from 15 years old to 50 years old. Some of them are really old, so we're got to keep up with maintenance on those or start replacing some of those older ones as well.
Okay. If there's a way, because I'm thinking of one of the older ones by Garcia's restaurant. Is
Yes,
it still there?
It's operational.
It's operational, because I do get comments that, nostalgic fire alarm. I mean, even if we replace it, we might think of putting it in the park just for looks or something like that, because I do get comments, oh man, you guys are old timers here, and I thought, yeah, that's kind of pretty cool that we might, do. Just keep that in mind if that ever.
Yes, sir.
Is there a possibility once we replace that one?
Joe, do we have one in Upper Canyon?
Yes.
There's one at the back of Upper Canyon.
Okay.
Yes, there is.
And at Station
At
3,
Station
and then,
3.
of
so
course, yes. Okay, got
Okay.
it.
I didn't know about the one at the
And then
very end.
if you, Upper Canyon, when you go over E-Barb and you go over there to Davis and Wax Pine, there's another one right there at that intersection.
Good.
Okay, so next, of course, the installation was completed in November, so we have used those a few times in on the checks, monthly checks, so the new siren. So I live right below the one up on Pikes Peak, and I can hear it really good. Prior to that, I wasn't able to hardly hear any sirens because I live right below the Swiss Chalet.
Okay.
We'll continue the testing at 5 o'clock on the 1st and 15th of every month. And we need to make sure, and we've already talked with Tim Keithley, work with the local radio stations for when it is an actual emergency, where people need to tune to and listen to for information, and we'll get the KRUI going on that as well. Since we have that station up, we'll get all that information to them so we can make sure that they're up to date on what we need to do when those sirens sound as well, and how to get it out on all the radio stations, what to do when the emergencies actually occur. And then I believe that covers that. Are there any more questions on the sirens?
Nope.
Okay. Next is this has to do with grant funding, village matching funds. We're looking at trying to see about coming up with matching funds to be set aside on a yearly basis. We put $200,000 in there as just a base to start with for matching funds for grants that we apply for. The grants we apply for range from a 5% match to a 50% match, depending on who the grant comes from and what they're for. So if we put in for a grant for a fire truck, we might need $100,000 to match if it's $1 million fire truck that we're putting in for. So that's why we're looking at trying to get this fund set up. I believe Chief Thetford has talked with Judy about this as well. So we're already working towards this, getting this taken care of for the next budgetary cycle. It's a American Firefighter Grant.
Yeah, Assistance to Firefighters Grant.
Assistant to Firefighter Grant program. And then we do a lot through FEMA, the Federal Emergency Management Association, and that's one of the ones I'm fixing to talk about as well. So.
And as far as emergency management and myself, we don't only write grants for fire department, police department, consolidated dispatch, emergency notifications, wherever there's a need, specifically in emergency response, our hazard mitigation plans, there's money out there for all of those. So we're trying to get all in there to keep the village up to date at a minimal cost to, because like the hazard mitigation plan, we initially wrote it and got it completed and adopted in 2017, which the village has never had one. That opened up money through Homeland Security and FEMA. Because we have the plan, those monies are available for pre and post recovery, fire, flood, whatever that is. We're now eligible to put in for those pots of money because of that plan, which that plan was funded by a grant. It was a minimal cost to the village, very minimal, and now we have it, and we just keep it up. And that's one of the latest ones that Joe's worked on is the BRIC, is that correct?
Yes, BRIC.
BRIC grant for updating that hazard mitigation plan for 2023, I believe.
Okay.
All righty. So if no more questions there, the last one is actually on that grant that Chief Thetford just mentioned. It's for us to update our hazardous mitigation plan and emergency operation plans. The hazardous mitigation plan is a multi-jurisdictional plan. It includes the county and all the surrounding communities in Lincoln County. So I just took the lead on this. I was asked to take the lead on this to get the grant going, and we started the grant back in September of 2020. We actually submitted the application with the approval of the council in December of 2020, and they're planning on reviewing it through 2021 and awarding the notices to who gets the funding in the fall of 2021. And we'll start implementing the update in 2022 to start the process of reviewing and updating it throughout 2022. And the plan has to be updated and approved by FEMA by July of 2023. So it's a long process, but we've started it. So we're waiting on that funding, and we're going to be looking at a $70,000 grant is what we're doing, asking for. And each entity has to pay their specific share, and our share was like $47.50. So that's our matching portion of it. So.
Okay.
And that covers all of Lincoln County.
That does cover all of Lincoln County.
Ruidoso.
Are there any questions on that?
No.
Okay. That is all I had under the emergency management planning. So if there's nothing else.
Mayor Pro Temp.
Yes.
Jasmine, did you receive the document I just sent you?
I have on my phone. I'm trying to pull it up on my laptop right now, but yes.
Mayor Pro Temp, councilors, I've asked Jasmine to share the document on the emergency response that we have for Lincoln County and expanding the test sites. And I just want to, Joe, to kind of go over this with you real quick. They updated it this morning, but I just want to show how we use this improvement plan process for every single function. Anytime that we get into a special operation, this is the document that we use. And then we use it to make sure that we're also tracking resources and coordinating efforts. So, we've actually expanded and shared this process and this in our plan with the other communities in the area as well. Okay. And it's helped to organize the whole process. So hopefully Jasmine can pull it up there and share it.
And while we're waiting for, I would just like to say thank you so much to Chief Thetford and to Joe. I've worked with them on the consolidated dispatch, and they were so instrumental in getting that done. So
long time coming, huh?
Yeah.
Okay, so what's up on the screen, get a little bit bigger, is our improvement plan for the test sites around Lincoln County. So a couple weeks ago with Manager Dodge, County Manager Ira Pearson, and the other mayors from the other communities, we came into an agreement to provide testing outreach throughout the county, throughout Lincoln County for COVID. So we have, this will be finishing basically our second week. Tomorrow Friday we'll do Hondo. So we've done outreach to Ruidoso Downs, Capitan, Carrizozo, Corona, and Hondo. So as well as the one that the Department of Health is doing here for COVID testing. So as of Friday, we'll have done 2 test sites in each community. And we've had some good turnouts in a lot of the communities and some poor turnouts. It just depends on the communities we're looking at. We've had anywhere from 6 people show up for a test site up to 42 or 43 for one of the outreach programs. We have on this update plan, it shows that we have added some additional dates. We're going to continue for the next 2 weeks with Ruidoso Downs, Capitan, Corona, Carrizozo, and Hondo to continue doing testing for the next 2 weeks to try to help us go from that red to green is what we're trying to do. Get as many tests out there to reduce our positivity rate is what we're planning. We're trying to do, and we should find out a little bit more about our positivity rate today. I think may have brought it down a little bit, but I don't know how much.
So when you say for 2 weeks, that's every day for the next 2 weeks, these sites will be open?
The only one that we won't have a site open, we run them from 9 to 12.
9 to 12, okay.
At specific locations in the community. Capitan is at the fire station. Carrizozo is on 12th Street, right in the middle of the street. Parks and Rec, Rodney's got crew come down and put up a tent for us at there, the Downs, and up in Corona and down at Hondo. So the Hondo one is by the school, by the football field. Yeah. The Corona one is at the fire station, and the Downs is at All American Park.
Okay.
They're all from 9 to 12 with the exception of Corona. They are they're all 9 to noon, except Corona, they're 10 to 1 in Corona.
1. And that's every day, Monday through Friday?
Each community has one. So Mondays we do Ruidoso Downs.
Okay.
Tuesday we do Capitan. Wednesday, with the exception of the next time we've been doing Corona, they only want to do one this next 2 weeks because there's not a whole lot of people over there.
Right.
So they figure skip 1 week and then go on next. Thursdays we do Carrizozo and Fridays we do Hondo.
Right. Okay.
And there is also the testing site at the Department of Health that is operating on the daily basis as well.
Right. I knew they were up here. I just didn't know. I thought every day for 2 weeks, but really it's just 2 more days of testing, which they've already completed 2 days at each of these communities.
Yes, sir.
Okay.
As of Friday, we'll have conducted 2 test dates at each site. We do Carrizozo.
Joe, just for clarification, it's actually we'll complete 3 weeks actually this week.
3 weeks, okay.
Yeah, and then we'll do an additional 2.
2 additional.
The Department of Health is asking that, right now, I had a meeting with them last week. They're wanting to take their staff that they have here and transition into administering the vaccine, and they're wanting us to consider taking over administering the tests.
Testing here.
And when I say we, I'm talking about us as a county group, so all the communities and everybody involved. Of course, we're the biggest organization, so we've taken the lead. Joe and Chief have been instrumental in that, and of course Rodney's crew with the logistical setups and whatnot. So it's been a team effort from our side to help support the county-wide efforts. Right now, and we're going to be meeting on Friday, Dr. Jackson, if you're available to meet with us, Ray Dean, Mayor Dean from Carrizozo is actually talking about changing the focus from doing the curative test sites to really promoting and pushing the rapid self-administered tests. He thinks to believe that they're a lot less expensive and a lot more effective in processing. So we're going to have that discussion with the Department of Health and look at the strategies, look at the whole strategy on how we are testing and encouraging people. But we want to continue that discussion and come up with a plan to move forward.
When and where?
I'll make sure that Yvonne, she's listening in. Yvonne will send you a calendar invite and make sure that you're fully aware. I believe it's at 10 o'clock on Friday. And we're going to have a Zoom site set up, but you're welcome to come into the office.
Are you getting notification?
In addition to that, when you look at this document, that's what I wanted to kind to depict is that
Most of the time I go to
we've came up with a standardized process in every single department. You know, in our plans, we've been utilizing that process, and it just helps guide and keep the flow. And no matter what department you're in, you're recognizing the various processes around departments. So when it comes time for us to respond to an incident, it's a standardized process, and it ties back into the emergency management processes that we've been trained on. At the same time, when you look at this document, you see the dates and how things have been progressing, and it's all kept together in one document. At the end of this document, it actually has a place. Jasmine, if you'll scroll down to the bottom, you can see each site is being tracked, and then down at the bottom, we have a little bit further down the chart right here of the responses, and it'll show by date how many tests were administered, how many were negative, how many were positive, and then the other is a spoiled or a bad sample was taken and whatnot. And this is where we're starting to track the numbers. We're still trying to make sure that we correlate the correct numbers, the methodology with the state, so that we can start projecting that early. It's been kind of difficult, and that's one of the concerns that we've had internally. Is it was two Fridays ago, Joe,
yes,
that you noticed that all of a sudden we got 44 tests that were reported positive for Lincoln County, and Joe did an inquiry. When he did that inquiry, the response that we got back from the State Department of Health is that they changed on the 14th. This was the 15th that it was reported. On the 14th, they changed their methodology. So I was like, well, how can you implement a program and change your methodology in the middle of the game?
Right.
You know, so that creates trust issues, and that's one of the things that we express to them, is that every time that you do something like that to us, it affects our credibility with the people, and it affects your credibility with the people as well. And you can't be changing the methodology in the middle of the game.
So we really didn't have 44 that day?
We're not sure. They didn't give us a clear answer.
They didn't give us a clear answer.
We're suspect that we changed the methodology and your number was higher that day. And, even if you take out that 44, that still wouldn't bring our positivity rate down to, within the yellow.
Sure.
But, our strategy was to try to get, we implemented the program at a certain time so that we could start a clear 2-week process of increasing tests. But when the methodology changed on us, it affected us.
Right.
So.
Who's in charge of the asylum?
Who's in charge of the inmates?
That's what I wanted to know.
Yeah. And that stuff just gets hard to wrap your hands around when you're trying to work. But the Department of Health has been extremely thankful that we're getting involved in helping out, because that's especially out in rural New Mexico. There is an underserved population, there is an aging population that doesn't have access, and some of their methods of accessing the testing to get into it just isn't reaching out to that population, and those numbers are counted in with ours. So we're going to continue that discussion and see how we can continue to reach out and help the situation. But I just want to thank Joe and Chief, because and Rodney, of course, their departments have just been great, and not just helping out Ruidoso, but helping out Lincoln County as a whole.
Well, without Lincoln County as a whole, we're not going to get yellow or green. We've got to all work together with this.
And from my perspective, all the communities have been extremely helpful. and cooperative and working together.
Good.
And even getting out into Hondo, and that's, if nothing else, I think that's a great thing to be able to say, is that we're all working together good.
Right.
That's true.
Yeah.
That's true. Any more questions for Joe or Cody? Y'all are doing a great
Yeah,
job.
thanks, guys.
Thank you.
Thank you for all
Thank
the
you.
work on the grant and opening those doors.
Yes, sir.
Exactly. Tim, if you don't mind, I'm going to skip over Rodney and the radio station and just combine all his when he comes up with Parks and Rec and all that stuff.
Yes, sir. Let's put up the church meeting and whatever order you want to take them in.
And then the next one would be the library.
We've got Dick Cook, too.
Oh, did I skip
In the
Dick?
back.
We still got Dick Cook in police department.
Yeah, it's on page 56.
Well, the next one I came up with was Rodney on page
I know.
75.
Remember, we kind of skipped.
Oh, that's right. That's right. I'm sorry.
Dick is 56.
So let's go to Dick Cook on what page?
56.
56.
Yeah, on the public safety team.
Hey, Rifle, it's Carrie.
Yes.
I just wanted to jump in right quick and share something with you guys that just happened. Susan and Tim and Ron, I just sent you guys this on your phones, but Michelle Obama just posted on Facebook the story about fusion.
Oh, my God.
Wow.
She posted on her Facebook, so that is huge.
That
I don't care
is.
which side of the aisle you sit on.
That is. Thank you for that breaking news, Carrie. That is awesome news.
Carrie, you should read what she put.
Okay. She put, the Fabulous Ladies Book Club is an example of what is possible when people come together to help their community in times of need. Their incredible organizing work has helped so many people in their town get the COVID-19 vaccine. Way to go, ladies.
Yep, excellent.
That is great.
Thank you,
So
Carrie.
that's huge.
Thank
So I just
you.
want to share that right quick.
Thank you.
All right, Mr. Cook.
Yes, sir. This year's been kind of a weird year for us with COVID and everything, and we'd like to thank the people that established us as an essential group, because it allows us to keep on with the production we've been doing and pretty much maintain what we've been doing. We had to modify some of the things we did with the public a little bit, but other than that, our production has been pretty well up. So our strategic plan, the first priority is continue our thinning program with the money we've getting from the state. We've still got about $130,000 left, and we plan to thin at least 60 acres of village-owned property. Right now, we're working out around the ball field. We just finished a 30-acre project, and we're advertising, as we sit here, a 28-acre project. We'll have about another 30-acre project to go there. And the next two priorities are the area just south of Alto Lake, and then the area right behind Fire Station Number 1, the steep hill behind Fire Station Number 1 in Camelot. So last year, though, we maintained and we thinned 55.7 acres west of Grindstone Lake, 48.9 areas on Ski Run Road, 5 acres on Moon Mountain near Blazer's Mill. We cut dead trees out of Gavilan Cemetery that we got a root virus in there and killed a bunch of trees in Gavilan Cemetery. We thinned some village right-of-ways, and we completed the survey of the Kuzner's hedgehog cactus on 500 acres. And that survey, they found 32 specimens of the hedgehog cactus. Now that's kind of significant because we put in for a grant to also do a thinning project out there. We didn't get the grant, but we're kind of under the gun a little bit because that survey is only good for 3 years according to the Fish and Wildlife Service. And so I have to find funding within the next couple of years so we can
do that project.
Don't lose the investment we have in that survey. So that's a priority for us. The next thing we did was with our implementation period, we actually were able to certify about 815 properties in the certification area. And that's where we had to make some adjustments because there were a lot of people that weren't willing to come to work on their properties. And so we actually changed our procedures where they could email us or call us and give us permission to go on their property. We'd actually go out and mark their properties the way they need to be marked, and then they could get a contractor to come in and do it. And so our production is probably down just a little bit, but we still got quite a number of 815 this year, and we have another 235 in progress that are on our City Works inventory that we've started that haven't been completed yet. Because of COVID, we had about 250 that we would normally sent to court that we opted just to roll them over to our next implementation area as opposed to send them to court. And so they actually have an extra amount of time to get that in addition to what we're doing with the implementation this year. And so we did make some adjustments, but we maintained to keep our production up.
Yeah. Do you still have matching funds or funds for the homeowners?
No. The matching funds for the last 2 or 3 years with the federal government have kind of dried up. And the other grant funds out of that they've gone more to areas next to BLM and Forest Service, and they want a big group of collaborators in there. And since we're kind of landlocked, unless we have one right on the boundary, we're kind of at a disadvantage as far as writing the grants and what we can apply for. I've just talked to Joe, and we're going to look at some of these grants that he's got available through our hazard mitigation plan to see if we can go that way for some money. The other place where we're lacking funding is on Moon Mountain. We accepted that liability and without any resources to maintain what we need to maintain on there as far as the fuels management goes. But and this may be another way we can do that too. So we're going to pursue other funding sources to see if we can't get done what we need to get done.
Well, is it costing the homeowners less this round since they did the big thinning 5 or 10 years ago?
I'm sorry, I'm having trouble hearing you.
Are the homeowners spending less this time around since these are mostly recertifications? Is the volume down?
It still depends on the property. The areas we've been through the last couple of years are areas that were done early in the implementation area, and our standards have changed some, and so there are quite a few lots that still had quite a little bit of vegetation that needed to be taken off.
Yeah, you got me on one of those.
Over the next couple of years, that'll probably go down some, along with the amount we're sending through the grapple trucks. The next area we have that we kind of fell down on this year, but not really. Most of the venues we had where we had booths and contacted the public and those kind of things were closed this year. And so we made a concerted effort that whenever we called or met with a landowner, that was our contact with the public to try to educate them on what we're doing and why we're doing it and those kind of things. And so we actually met with probably pretty close to 600 or 700 different individuals on the ground to explain to them what we were doing.
That's good, Dick. That person-to-person contact is always important.
In addition to that, we also provide the service if somebody's got a sick tree or something like that. If they call, we'll come out and give them our opinion of what it is and what it might take to treat it. And that was able to contact another 70 to 100 people doing that service. We also have a number of hazard trees that we're still doing. What happens is that our neighbor-to-neighbor hazard, if somebody reports to us a private property that has a tree that is in danger of falling on a power line, or is probably usually a tree that's alive that has died, that has the capability of falling into a power line or a neighbor's house or some of those, they call us, and we have a process we have to go through, or that we go through, to identify the tree, assess if we feel it is a hazard, and then we mark the tree. Then we contact the landowner that owns the tree and give him a certain amount of days to respond, and give him another certain amount of days to get the tree removed on private land. In addition to that, the trees that are on village land, we identify, and we also contract those to get them taken down. And over the past, I'm sure some of you remember, in about 2012 and 2013, the number of dead trees we had, that's gone down a lot. This year is a little bit concerning to me because we didn't have much water last year. And towards the September, October, November, we noticed an uptick in the number of trees that were dying from bugs. And what that means to us is that if there's an uptick in the fall, then there's probably going to be an outbreak in the spring. And so that's something we're going to be watching this spring, because it could be another banner year for the bug.
Right.
The other thing that we've started, and we got a little money for it last year, and we're working on it now, we're identifying village road right-of-ways that have some thinning needs, and they could be things that have sight distance needs so people can see around corners and some of those kind of things. And we have what we call dog hair thickets, which are small trees that are adjacent to the road that wildlife can hide behind and whatever, and jump out in front of cars and those kind of things. Those are the kind of areas that we're prioritizing to thin the village right-of-ways. We've identified about 16 or 17 so far, but that'll be one of our priority areas that we're working on next year. That pretty well lays out what we've got planned for next year. Is there any questions?
You've got a lot to do.
Yeah, we don't.
It is a bunch.
We move pretty good.
Going back to the village areas that you're looking at thinning on Schoolhouse Park, that the hillside behind, are you going all the way to the top, or just so far behind the fire station, the hotel, and that one shopping mall?
We go all the way to the top.
All the way to the top.
We thinned our property from the other side last year or the year before, and we'll come to the top of the ridge on all the property we own there.
Okay.
It'll be primarily lop and scatter. It's a steep. There's not much way to get a bunch of it out of there, but most of it will be lop and scatter, but it'll reduce the fire danger some.
And I thought we had it in the ordinance that a certain percentage of slope that it would be exempt. Is that no longer in there, or?
It's still in there. I'm not sure whether our last ordinance actually said that or not, but we still adhere to that. And what we do is, if it gets too steep for equipment, we ask them to drag what they can reach down to an area where they can get the equipment too. But the rest of it, we go ahead and lop and scatter it.
Lop and scatter, okay. That's why I was thinking if it was the buffer above the fire station, the hotel, and that, whatever that U-shaped shopping area is. Because I know that's our property line up to there, I believe. I always thought it went up to where Arby's was at. But I found out different. It's a lot closer. And then all the way up to Camelot, not Camelot, Crown Point condominiums. Mm-hmm. That was the other corner. Because we always talked about building a trail, because the view up there, you know, looking down the valley and into the town, I mean, it's beautiful. Yeah, it is. And we talked about trying to get a little sliver of land on the Camelot side road, just to have the parking lot there so that you could just kind of hike over a little bit and just, you know, have a picnic up there or something. But that was the reason if we're taking the whole hillside thinning out, because there's a lot of shrub up there.
There is, and the shrub's not quite as much of a problem as the small conifers, because conifers have oil in their leaf,
of course,
and they're not quite as flammable. And so what normally happens in fires here, that's on a north-facing slope, and normally fires roll up to the top, up a south-facing slope,
right,
and then roll over the top and burn slower on the downslope,
right,
usually on the ground. And so whenever you lop and scatter, you don't take any of the vegetation off, but you make it where it's not as flashy. And
okay,
it actually might increase the fire danger, the spread rate for maybe a year, but after the needles melt down and fall to the ground and those kind of things, then you've only got the big stuff left to burn, and it burns hot, but it doesn't burn fast. And so it gives the firefighters a chance to catch it when it hits the bottom of the hill without spotting over it and those kind of things.
okay.
And so that's the kind of the strategy for lop and scatter.
That makes sense to me. Any other questions for Mr. Cook? No? Thank you very much, Dick.
Thank you. We appreciate all your support.
Good job, Dick. Mayor Pro Temp, under the Public Safety Department, we still have Chief Hooker.
Okay. Let's get with Chief Hooker. Page 63 that I found.
He's on there?
He was earlier.
I'm here.
All right, Chief.
I don't know if y'all can see me, hear me, my
There
background.
you go.
With the things that have taken place with COVID and vaccines and testings and positives and negatives and all that, I sit here in a portion of my house with the wife being in another portion and the son being in another part, as we're all doing this remotely.
Oh man. Well, at least you're in the house.
Well, exactly, but I have been sequestered downstairs to the guest bedroom, and it's pretty cold, so try to keep moving here. Thank you guys for hanging out, and as your numbers are dwindling, I'm glad y'all are still there to see what we've got going and listen to a little brief about the police department. We've been just as busy as everybody else. Our calls have been up. The world didn't stop per se. It might have changed a little bit, but we still had people coming into the village and needing our services, and I can tell you that those services have continued. No matter our manning, no matter our status, I feel as though people are still getting the public safety, law enforcement aspect that they need and deserve. With that having been said, I'll just go into this first one, in recruiting and retention of personnel. I don't come to you this year, and I won't come to you this year asking for more positions. I just need to fill the positions that I have. We're down 5 patrol officers and almost as many dispatchers. Some of that's due to the incidents that have occurred this year, unfortunately, and then we've had some people that have moved on, and with the pending change at the sheriff's office, we're liable to lose some police officers to them. That happens when you get a new sheriff. But just going forward, there's things that we need to try to do to get some people here, get them in those patrol cars and sitting behind those dispatch consoles. I will say that we have non-certified testing taking place on the 4th and 5th of February. We have 8 people that have signed up or that have made it to the point of doing that. So hopefully we can get some of those, and that's for patrol, non-certified. Then we have the dispatchers. We have 1 in a background status, and we're always taking those applications whenever we get them.
Great.
And I don't know who's controlling my screen there.
Jasmine or Samantha?
Okay, I had it trying to do, okay, there you go. Stop right there, please. Some of our needs, we see the ever-changing dynamics of law enforcement across the nation. There's campaigns put together, there's recruiting drives, all kinds of things that go up on social media. And I'm going to say that I'm not very good at it. I've got some of my officers that have stepped up and started an Instagram page, our Facebook page, things of that nature, trying to build this to put the information out there. So if somebody's looking to say, hey, I'd like to go to Ruidoso, they can find what they need. Some of the areas that we compete with, the oil field. Now, of course, a lot of that's changing here in just our very, very recent past. So maybe we'll find some people that want to go into law enforcement. But those places down there, they offer sign-on bonuses, housing support, so on and so forth. So there's things out there that we just need to look at. As Councilor Lutterman has discussed in our consolidated dispatch meetings, the pay that the dispatchers start out at, that it's a little low. I sent her information yesterday, and that was done back in August, and that was for the state. And we might fall in medium there, but when you look at our cost of living as opposed to some other places, that is a factor. One thing that's coming up through the legislative session this year is going to be the qualified immunity. That is something that law enforcement officers worry about, and how they're going to do their jobs and what kind of support they're going to have if something, heaven forbid, happens. So again, that's going to be our top priority is fill in those slots. Any concerns or issues, comments there?
Chief, that the email that you sent me, was that for management or was that for entry-level dispatchers? Okay,
Mayor Pro Tem, Councilor Lutterman, that sheet, and I would have sent it out to everybody, but I just got it late last night from Katie Simpson. It had 2 on there, Councilor Lutterman. It had the wages of a new hire, a certified hire, and then it had a sheet that had the supervisor wages.
Chief, Mayor Pro Tem, if I may.
Yes.
What survey methodology was utilized for that, Chief?
Manager Dodge, I don't know. I was reaching out to Katie last night saying, hey, have you gotten anything? And she said, this is what I got down from our association page. So I do not have any background on that.
And Mayor Pro Temp, councilors, I would just caution that sometimes there's surveys, information that's put out there that there's not a industry method of really doing a valid survey methodology. So I'd be careful on what information we're getting. When we look at those type of things, we need to make sure that we're looking at the whole industry, the industry standards, and there's a methodology for determining what that industry prevailing wage is. So I'd be careful with what information we're looking at.
Yes, sir. And I only produced that as just a mirror. I mean, maybe just something to go off of or to look at, not to be the gospel.
No, I appreciate it, Chief.
Yes, ma'am. The next thing is our the building itself.
Just a minute, Chief.
Hold on, Chief.
Sorry.
Mr. Mayor Pro Tem, Chief Hooker, I had this is Jackson. I had a question on a comment that you made in your history, and that is there may be pending legislation to do away with qualified immunity for officers. Could you elaborate a little on that?
So I'll ask for Zach to assist me if I mess it up, but there has been, they started it last year, they being the legislators, I don't know if it was a Senate bill or a joint bill, but it was looking at taking away the qualified immunity that an officer would have performing their job. Right now, if an officer, say they get into an officer-involved shooting or something where there's a loss of life or just something that they do in their job, the municipal league and Association of Counties, so on and so forth, they support the law enforcement officer through legal representation. That could go away, and it could be where the officer could be sued individually, their assets, so on and so forth.
Thank you. That was sobering.
It is. It's very much so. And I know both the Municipal League Chiefs Association and the New Mexico Association of County Sheriffs affiliates have tried vigorously to get that stopped and or not follow through with.
Thank you.
What concerns me, Gary, is that this may be the opening door roadway that the Good Samaritan law will be next affected. And I may not be signing up for volunteer CPR and first aid classes anymore because, boy, if I'm liable, that, hey, I tried to administer, CPR and I just didn't get it through. But same situation. That's how I compare it to this.
It's not far off.
Right.
I just can't imagine what they're thinking. But then that's a question and a time for a different day. But you might as well just close it down and make it a free-for-all.
That's what it sounds like. Okay, Chief.
Chief, just 1 second. I need some clarification. So the reason why I brought this up, and I did go to Tim before this meeting, because at the consolidated dispatch meeting, Katie felt like that our salaries for dispatch were lower, and that's the reason why that we couldn't get people to come in, or they wouldn't stay because they could find better jobs with dispatch somewhere else. So, Tim, how would we get just like Call House or some of the other places and see about their starting rates, or how do we go about doing that? Because this was a real concern for the Consolidated Dispatch Board.
So what we would do is we would make sure that there was a survey methodology that was being conducted by a...
Turn on your mic.
Mayor Pro Tem, Councilor, I keep forgetting that red and green light. But to answer your question, Councilor, we would get a salary study to determine that industry and the prevailing wage, and then there would be a methodology of making sure that when we conducted surveys that the information that was coming in was comparable. And so there's a number of different types of comparisons, from size of community, size of department, service area. And I'll just use an example. This dispatch center is now serving a bigger area than just the village of Ruidoso. So just to kind of, Taos may only be serving their municipality. So when you look at the variances, all those variables need to be taken into consideration.
Okay, so can we get that? Can we do something with that then?
My recommendation is that would be something that the committee that's going to be looking at the salary and compensation, that would be deferred to that committee.
And it's been a while since we've had a salary survey done for the whole village wide. I mean, I remember that maybe just shortly after I got elected in 2010. I don't know of any update, because before that, right before I left the village from Parks and Rec, we did a salary survey specifically for police and fire at that time during the budget. I think that was in 08, maybe 07. And that's the last time I remember doing salary survey. But it may have happened sooner from what I'm saying, those dates. But I agree with you, because at one time we hired a company I think they were out of Utah, and Public Sector, I think was the name of it. And they sent down interviewers and interviewed each employee. Well, of course, they clustered because I had all my maintenance workers gathered right there, and they wrote down everything what they did and their responsibilities. But that was like 20 years or 30 years ago when they did that.
Mayor Pro Temp Salas, we just completed one. It didn't include the police. So my intent is to have one conducted for police, fire, and dispatch as well.
Okay.
The committee, we will provide that salary survey to the committee that was just completed by the Mercer Group.
Okay.
And another thing that I've been not concerned about, but the Lincoln County Sheriff's Department is wanting to come in, join the consolidated dispatch. So that's going to be even, I mean, that'll be even more work for, they can't find people to do this or to stay.
Right.
So there is a concern.
I could see that. I didn't know that they were wanting to join up.
They're looking at it.
But we don't have to accept them, though.
Mayor Pro Temp and councilors, you know, and I know, you know, and oftentimes, you know, there's different sectors or different employment or issues that come up. For instance, sometimes, especially now during COVID, you know, you've seen a drop in certifications for the water, wastewater operators. So the demand goes up for those, and that pushes up the salary.
Right.
The same thing with the building inspectors. You know, at one time, you know, the vast shortage of building inspectors when they had all the construction that was happening down in the southeast corner of the state, they started to look at trying to attract and pull away our building inspectors. So when we look at the policies, we need to make sure that we're taking in to consideration all of those type of things. And then when you have so many different departments, there has to be a fair and equitable way of evaluating it and making a policy recommendation so that we don't get into a favoritism type of discussion. And so everything we do, I really encourage that we do it and employ a fair and equitable process of evaluating.
I understand.
Okay.
Sorry, Chief.
Mayor Pro Tem, Councilor Leatherman. No, ma'am. It's just a discussion, and I think that with you being on the board and of the Consolidated Dispatch and seeing and hearing and going in there, that's what you get to bring to the table, and I appreciate it. So moving on, facilities improvement of the police department. The mayor's commented his few times coming in there recently. He's like, you know, this thing, it's kind of dark, it's kind of dreary. As most of you know, because you were around when it was probably built and or the police department moved into it, it used to be a bank. I know when the DC got there and he first walked in and I was showing him around and I said, it's a bank. And he goes, oh, now it makes sense. So there's just some things that we might need to spruce up there. You know, with the retirement of Nancy Smith, she took a lot of the plants with her as they were hers, and they'll probably be more gone. So we'll just work through that, but just some improvements there in the police department itself.
You know, Chief, when I was a bachelor, I had a whole bunch of plastic plants, and I would entertain and just have my empty watering can and act like I'm actually planting it, so my neighbor across the street thinks I'm watering the plants and stuff. So,
Mayor Pro Tem, we may need to do that with ours because there was quite a few in there, and they were all hers. But
I recall.
We'll look into that.
Oh, yeah.
Could you scroll up, please? We'll go on to the next one there. Okay, that's good. Thank you. Rewriting and updating our police department policy manual. All departments live by their SOP or policy manual, whatever you want to call it, and we're no different. But one of the things with this, and then I'll go into my follow-on goal, is that ours can be updated and it can also mirror and or support the village policy manual also. DC Lacey has been an integral part already in working on this and getting the best practices, and putting that together so we have the best document that we're putting out there.
Great.
Mayor Pro Temp, I'd like to comment on that.
Yes.
As I mentioned before, there's been a big change in the municipal league, and the municipal league is our insurer. And, as such, they're our risk management. And, one of the things that I want to make sure that we do moving forward, and this is a discussion I'm going to bring up in the Managers Association meeting as well, is that when we look at the SOPs, we look at the personal policies, we need to make sure that our policies are working very well together with our risk management strategy. There was a recent settlement out of the PD where, in my opinion, when I look at the whole thing, it was probably one of the most justifiable actions as far as following an SOP that I've seen. And I'm not going to say exactly which one I'm talking about.
Right.
But they followed that SOP, but it still came back where there was a large sum of money that was paid out by a self-insured fund. And to me, it makes it feel like we lost the situation where the police department, following their procedures, stuck to the procedure, and it still led them into that type of a situation. So, it's very important to me, and I know Zach feels the same way, and the chief, that we do everything possible to make sure that those SOPs, the personal policies, are mirroring each other, that there's not those type of situations that are putting us in a weak position administratively. And then, oftentimes we feel that we do the best job we possibly can, and it still comes out where there's some type of settlement decision made on an economic issue as opposed to a procedural or issue like that. So, we're going to put some effort into making sure that we update those and do the best job we can to make sure that we tighten that up. But it just really gets disheartening when you feel that you're doing everything you can and then you still feel like you lost. Yeah. So.
That's too sad.
Do you agree with that, Chief?
Mayor Pro Tem, Manager Dodge, absolutely, sir. That's, like I said earlier, that's what we live by, and you want to have it be just right. But even when it is, you never know what's going to happen. So moving down, our next one is just an overall public safety stance. As I said before, I still feel as though the law enforcement support that's going into the village of Ruidoso is top notch. People are getting taken care of. We're solving crimes. I feel as though it's a massively safe place. But in saying that, there's things that we, with the introduction of the consolidated dispatch, we're using our ACO, our code enforcement, animal control officers more, our record center, the E911, all of that stuff has continued to change. And so we have to continue to change with it. I had mentioned last year about getting a public service aide, and I want to readdress that also. What's a public service aide? Public service aide would be someone that belongs to the police department. They would not be in a law enforcement capacity, but yet in a support role. They could do things like distribution of paperwork, information, if there's a parking complaint, if there maybe is a little fender bender accident, somebody walks in and says, hey, my wallet was lost or stolen, I need a report, cell phone, that person would be able to do that. So in having someone like that, that would take a little burden away from these other entities that are out there in the field. Mm-hmm. And it would be a pipeline. Say it's a young person, 19, 20 years old that just gets out of school and says, I want to be in law enforcement. It'd be a perfect way for them to start and get in the system and see if it's something they wanted to do. So that's just one of our things to try to help work towards that public service and public safety.
Mm-hmm. That's great, Chief.
Okay, and then our final, again, as we were just talking prior to that one, was the village personnel policy update. I'm sure we're going to have some law enforcement people on that, whether it be at the administrative level or at the lower level, but we really want to support that and be a part of that process. So as we said earlier, we could have our stuff mirroring the village and support it and avoid those landmines, as the manager says. So overall, we're continuing forward. We just want to figure out a way to get officers in those cars and dispatchers in those seats. And that's it.
Thank you, Chief. Going back to the building, do you see any major work that's going to probably be needed here in the near future, or?
No, sir. As I said in the writings, we had the roof replaced over on the patrol side. We had some of that furniture replaced a year or so ago. But I think it's just general maintenance. There's some tiles falling down. The front doors need to be stained. It just maybe have it look nicer would definitely help. If the dispatch center moves out, that'll free up some room that maybe we can do some other things and just make it nice overall.
Okay. Thank you. Any other questions for the chief? Go ahead, Councilor Jackson.
Pro Tem and Chief Hooker, this is Jackson, microphone.
Oh.
Mr. Mayor Pro Tem, Chief Hooker, this is Jackson. I just had a question, and it comes up repeatedly, not only with your department, but with others. Is it the base salary for an incoming patrol officer or the cost of living, or both, that is an impediment?
Mayor Pro Tem, Councilor Jackson, the way I would answer that is both, and the way young people are today, it's not like it was when we started in whatever profession it was. It doesn't matter, law enforcement, military, parks and rec, whatever. There's not that complete sense of I will start in this place and I will finish in this place.
That's right.
I will go wherever the wind blows me. If there's more money over here, I'll go over there.
That's right.
If there's a less cost of living, I'll go over there. And that may be over there, might be across the street to another department or whatever. So I think that's where, from our standpoint, roping in my young people to help us pitch to other young people is going to be a benefit. So if I could answer your question, I would say yes, and then that addition.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Any other questions for the chief? Chief, thank you very much. Appreciate all you do.
Thanks,
Thank
Chief.
you all also.
Stay warm. Mayor, and now I see we're up to the radio station, but as I said, if we could just combine all that with Rodney's, and I see Diane walking in, so we'll jump to page 81.
Prepared.
That's one way to get in here.
Yeah.
I'm here.
Mayor Pro Temp.
Yes.
Diane, did you guys have an opportunity to work on your opening plan?
We discussed it, and there's different barriers to getting us open to where folks can browse the stacks, because we have no way of sanitizing the books.
Okay, so
Mayor Pro Tem and Village Manager, Diane and I are currently working on that. We will also include some of those barriers or obstacles in the plan, but we are working on that.
We are, and definitely we want to do what we can to get open to the public. We also want to make sure that the folks can come in and start using the computers, because I know they miss the computers.
okay, and I just wanted to bring that up, Mayor Pro Temp, Councilor, because yesterday I did mention that we would get back to you and make a recommendation. So I just wanted to highlight that, I have asked Jasmine and Denise to get together and start making that recommendation on how we would reopen. So if we don't complete it today, I hope we'll set up a meeting with Ron and myself tomorrow, and we can get this hashed out and make a recommendation by next week, if that's
Most
sufficient
definitely.
for the mayor and council.
That would be great. That would be great.
All right, thank you guys. Thank you guys for working so hard on that and quickly.
Thank you. I just want to say I appreciate y'all very much, and all the departments and all your support that you give the library. We appreciate it greatly. If there's anything we can do for you, let us know, and we'll work on getting it done.
And Mayor Pro Tem, councilors, and I think she means that, because they have been.
I know.
Anything that
Yes.
we've asked them to help out with, they're, Diane on the spot.
They'll do it. All right.
Well, thank you. We certainly try, and that's part of our job. We're a community hub. We're there to help everyone out.
And I also wanted to say, again, thank you very much for all your help when we were undergoing the CARES redistribution of the allotment and grant, because your folks, you and one other, did the lion's share of the work in rewriting and editing, because we went through 5 or 6 iterations before we finally got to one we could use. And that was a lot of time spent not just at the meeting, but after the meeting.
Thank you. Well, we'll start with our first goal, which is to provide a library building that is safe, comfortable, and well-maintained for all community members. Last year we brought this up. Our HVAC system was limping. It's doing better than it was because we did, during the first quarter, replace a condenser motor, which was $5,000. So we would like to get some funding. I'm, of course, going to pursue grant possibilities to get that system completely redone. One of the other things for the facilities that we're looking at is carpeting for downstairs. We've got lots of runners, and it's really not safe. We have a quote that we got from a company in the village that's about a year old that was going to be $20,000 to replace the carpeting downstairs in the children's area. The quote we got had to do with carpet squares. They're easier to maintain, and you can take pieces out whenever you get a stain and put a new piece in.
And when you're saying the children's, the classroom as well?
The classroom is just linoleum tile.
Linoleum, okay.
Mm-hmm.
Does it need to be carpet for sound or something, or can you use something that's easier to clean?
I've seen children's areas that in different libraries that are not carpeted. However, children have a tendency to not always listen and want to try to run or play around with their siblings or friends. And I believe that carpeting helps with lessen the injuries that might come with that. We set the goal last year of closing off the front stairwell. That actually got done this spring and beginning of summer. It was completed in June, and so that safety issue has been taken care of. As I said before, if we can get funds to help out with that, grants or matching funds from the village, that would be wonderful. Our next item, do you have any questions on the facilities?
No? Anyone? No?
Okay. Our next item is, we had said make library building ADA compliant. However, I have done some further checking into the ADA standards and regulations. The building was ADA compliant when it was built, and they have the 1991 standards, and then there's the 2010 standards. Since the building was built in 97, it follows the 91 standards. So to my knowledge, it's an ADA compliance. Right. However, for greater ease of access, installing automatic doors, it would give greater ease of access, not only for those who are with disabilities, but it would also help with moms and dads that come with their children and have strollers to get in and out, because sometimes it's really difficult when it's windy.
Right.
I have not gotten a quote on those. I have done some checking myself on the costs. They had devices that can be attached to the current doors that we have, and it's about $2,000 per device. I don't know if that includes any door openers that would be outside or on the inside, the buttons. I don't know if that includes that price or not. And we would need a total of 4 of the devices for the doors and then 2 buttons.
Okay.
Any questions on that? The next goal is a complete, well-trained, customer-oriented staff sufficient to serve all users. We've had some difficulty in keeping staff and getting them trained. When you have minimal staffing, it creates a problem because anytime anybody is sick or on vacation, it leaves you short-staffed. And what we found was that about 40% of the time, even if all the positions are filled, we are short of staff. And so what I'm asking for this year is not a whole brand new person, but to make the part-time position we have into a full-time position.
Okay.
This would help with lunches, and anytime anybody is out sick or on vacation, it would not leave us short people trying to get services to everyone.
What's the work week hours for the part-time?
The part-timer has 15 hours a week,
Okay.
and when we were open on Saturdays before COVID, she would work on Saturday and then she would come to work on Monday. With a part-timer during this time, if one was hired, we would utilize them as best as we could, working with them to come and help us out at lunchtime.
Right.
Currently. But a full-time person would be helpful all the way around.
Right.
Just to, there's things that we've done while we've been closed, such as inventory and weeding. I don't know that an inventory's been completed at the library for a very long time. We got that done, and we've been weeding, which is very important when you have limited space to make sure you have space for new materials that are coming in. And we were able to do that, which when we're open to the public, we don't have time for those things because we don't have enough people to get those things continued.
So you want to take, pardon me, you want to take that full-time, that half-time position and just make a full-time position?
That's correct.
Oh, Mr. Pro Tem and Diane, and also adding to that need, it would seem, I would think there's no volunteerism at all right now during COVID.
Right now, we don't have volunteerism because we're not open to the public. And while we love our volunteers, mostly what they volunteer for is programming.
Gotcha. Thank you.
We do have a few that do other things, but mostly it's for programming. And since we can't do programming in person, we're not in need of the volunteers to be there to help out.
Thank you.
You're welcome. The cost, I'm not completely clear exactly how much the cost is for a full-time person. I believe it's around $50,000 to include everything, but it would be reduced by about $11,000 that is already budgeted for the part-time position. While we've been closed for COVID, we've been fortunate in getting lots of training for the staff that is there. The new staff member, Marissa, she has been there for about a month, and she has done all kinds of training and learned all kinds of things, and I'm ready for her to be out on the front lines when we reopen. She has just gotten great training, and she's very eager to learn all she can about libraries. With that said, whenever we are open back up for public to come in, things change a little bit because with minimal staff, you don't have the time for them to be off desk to do training, and it's hard to do in-house training. I've done in-house training with them. We've used some webinars and some online training that's free while we've been closed, which works out wonderful, but you got to have more personnel so that you can remove them from the desk so that they can do these webinars. And the free things that we can do that don't cost money. There's more things that we need to learn about in the library profession, and those things can be learned at conferences, mini conferences. We have a full conference once a year, a mini conference once a year. When we don't have COVID restrictions, we do it online. And we also have other ones outside the state, which include the Public Library Association. There's also the Mountain Plains Library Association. Those are opportunities for different individuals to discuss and learn about things from other librarians. This costs money. And the budget that we had before COVID was about $2,000, and that only works for the library director to be able to attend these things. So we asked for that line item to be increased to at least $5,000, but preferably to $10,000 for training. We're looking at the SOPs. We have completed SOPs for the library. Except for new things that come up, we'll make new SOPs for those, and we'll maintain what we've got. Any changes that we need to make, that has been taken care of. The library supervisor and the youth services librarian have worked together for a training program for new employees. This seems to be working well with what we've done so far, but we want to make sure that we work together to refine and improve that program. Any questions on that?
Nope, you covered it really well.
Thank you. The next item is to develop adult programs and program series to support job seekers and potential business owners and entrepreneurs. At present, we have some online resources through the state library that are helpful for folks finding jobs and preparing to find a job. But something that has been discussed with the state library whenever we're reopening is to become a hub for the workforce solutions, where we would have our computers there and allow people to do testing like the water certification and such, so that they wouldn't have to go someplace else to do that kind of testing. I know the library is used a lot by the industry, the restaurant industry, for their servers to come and take their tests and get their certifications online there at the library. We would like to expand that and do more to help that way. We would also like to have programs for people to come in and talk about the professions, maybe to get them to, maybe a police department can come and do a recruiting program, those kinds of things. We would like to do more as far as that goes.
Good.
We would, next goal is to develop more services to serve and support all community members. And we can do that in a lot of different ways, but we do need more personnel to do outreach. To leave the library, you have to make sure that the circulation desk upstairs and downstairs are manned, and that everybody gets their lunches that they're supposed to have. And so with more personnel, we would be able to do more outreach. We could go to the schools, work with them. We could work with the Boys and Girls Club. We can work with Chamber of Commerce or Parks and Recreation, Community Center, and do more events and collaborate on those kinds of things. And that's what I'd really like to do, so that the library becomes a true community hub.
I was just looking at purchasing the e-books and increase it by 25%. What's our inventory now of e-books?
I don't know the total number because we work with the consortium. Okay. So theirs are available to our members as well.
Okay.
So I'm not sure what it is. A lot of the e-books, they don't allow for purchasing to keep.
Right.
And that they only work for 2 years maybe. Okay. And then they go goodbye and are not available any longer.
So it's a rotation process?
It changes all the time depending on what you can actually purchase. Okay. I try to purchase the ones that will stay with us, but there's popular books that will only come for purchase for 2 years.
Okay.
So,
thank you.
You're welcome. We had looked at doing mail delivery for those that are homebound. During COVID, it's difficult to do this simply because we can't find out who is truly homebound. And our budget that we have right now, the plans that we had, we would not be able to afford it, the postage, because the plans we had were to mail books to people who are at home and have an envelope for them to mail them back to us. If we did it for everyone at home now, it may prove to break our budget.
Yeah.
So we've postponed that until we open back up to get that up and running. And I've talked about the workforce solutions. I think that that's all we have. Does anyone have any questions?
Going back to the reopening plan, and I don't know the other counselors, it seemed like I saw, well, first of all, museums are closed, I believe, due to the order, but it seemed like they opened it in Albuquerque. What is that? It's with the kids going to Explora.
Explora.
I think they were able to open up, and I may have been just thinking that, but I could have sworn I saw a news clip on them opening it up and limiting again their participation, and that's all I kind of remember. So,
well, I know that I regularly get on Zoom meetings with other librarians from different libraries across the state, and most libraries are just offering the curbside service.
Right.
If they have them come in, it's limited to computer use or checking your books out or checking them in. They're not really allowing anybody to do any browsing of the stacks.
Oh, I see.
But they are opening to allow them to use computers and to come in and bring their books inside rather than leaving them in the outside. There's different things that can be done. We're working on it, and maybe we can work out something to where we can do that. The services that we have curbside, anybody can check out whatever they want, any of the materials that we have in the library, and we can give it to them at curbside service. I know it's difficult for some because they like to browse the stacks.
Of course.
We have also increased sending out flyers to those who do check out and posting on the website that show the different new items that we've had come in and giving them a summary of what the books are about, so they can see firsthand what it is rather than having to browse through our catalog on the website. That's helped a little bit, but I know they want to come in and visit with us.
Of course, of course. And I guess where I was leading with that, if we had to designate the archives room as a museum so we could let people in, is where I was going with that. Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem?
Yes.
I would just like to say I've been honored to be the liaison on the library board, and Diane and her board, she's got a really good board that are thinking out of the box. And one of the ideas right now is a book pantry that would go in parks, like the food pantry. And I talked to Rodney, and he said that that would be wonderful, and that if whoever makes the book pantry make it, and that they would install it for us.
That would be great.
So, and the idea behind that is just if I have a couple of books that I'm wanting to get rid of, that I would just take them to the book pantry and somebody could enjoy those books.
Works the same way as the chuck wagons that we've got.
Yeah, because right now there's no place that will really do that. And this would not be anything that the village of Ruidoso, this is, we're putting it out there, but it's different people from our community,
Right.
from the county, sticking the books in there. So
That's a very good idea.
yeah,
I think we should pursue that and
yeah.
get some organization. It wouldn't be much to make those like the chuck wagons,
Well,
I think.
the board is, I'm just telling you this because I think she's got a really good board and they're thinking out of the box.
Good.
And trying to bring the community together through the books.
Great.
And with the library not open yet, they were trying to figure out how to get some of those people that might not do anything else, but maybe they would go to the park and get a book. So
That would be great.
I just wanted to let y'all know kind of what the board is looking at.
Thank you. I agree. I have a wonderful board. We're going to do some wonderful things.
The high school has a building trades program now, that we might get them involved.
Oh, that's not a bad idea. That's
They're
a very
looking
good
for
idea.
things to build, and I gave them a bunch of stuff the other day, but I'll ask Lonnie if...
Is that Mater still the teacher?
He's involved, but he does welding and mechanics.
Okay,
Lonnie
that's-
Jossert does the building, the wood part.
Okay.
I don't know, Diane, did somebody say that they were going to build them? If we could.
I think our chair, Tim, knew somebody that was going to be able to build them, but I can get in touch with him.
We can always get back with you, John. But that's a great idea. Thank you for bringing that up.
Thank you.
Oh, Mr. Mayor Pro Tem.
Yes.
I did look up Explora Science Center and Children's Museum in Albuquerque. It's just one I'm familiar with. And if their current website is correct, they're showing it as open, and they're giving hours.
Right.
Wow.
I know that they're doing, excuse me, sir, they're doing a lot of virtual programming. That's some of the stuff that we've had up over the summer. Whenever they have programs that we can join with other libraries to go virtual, we've done some of those with Explora.
Their last update on Google was on the 13th of January, and it says Doodle are open for virtual camps and semester-long programs. So I just don't know if their website or if Google's more accurate.
I do know that they had some museums open that they turned around and shut back down again. I didn't know about Explora. It's a little bit different.
Well, I know Parks and Rec will figure out that sanitation process. They do a really good job in the playgrounds and public restrooms everywhere. I'm just amazed of how they spray that spray that they get and stuff. So,
well, there's a few things that we can look at. I know that I looked at the fogger that the police department uses for the possibility of using that, but it is water-based. And that would cause difficulties for the books. I did see something on one of the emails that I get from different vendors and different folks that work throughout the state, that they have one that now that's a fogger that is all natural items that are in it, and it is not water-based. And that might be something that we could look at to be able to sanitize the stacks.
that would be good.
Mayor Pro Tem, Dr. Jackson, have they ever figured out how long, if I put my hands on a book, how long does the germs, if I've got germs, which I do, but how long would those germs be on that book?
Can I answer that?
Oh, yeah.
I know that the online computer library center, their Realm project, has looked into these things, and they've used the different surfaces that they have in libraries to find out for books, as well as DVD cases and audio cases. What they found was that for us, what was best was to quarantine for 3 days when it gets turned in, because they were showing signs of being there still on the books at about 3 days, but not at 4. They've done different, I can get the information for you. From the Realm Project, they have done different testing at different times and different temperatures and different things like that for library items.
And Diane, in regard to the text in the books and their protection, have they also looked at UV treatments of these surfaces just to immediately sanitize?
That is something I'll have to check. I'm not sure.
That's a good tool. I didn't even think
well,
of that.
back in the day, we used it all the time in restaurants and everywhere else when we had tuberculosis, but it's still effective.
Yeah.
I mean, in our hospital rooms now, we push this card in that lights up like a Christmas tree. You leave it alone for 2 hours and lock the door, go back in, and all surfaces are clean.
That's definitely some things to look at that we'll be looking at.
Well, the other thing I was thinking about too is that it's protecting the text and the fabric. There's no solution that's going on to it.
That's correct. That part of the reason for us having to quarantine is that you can sanitize the outside, but you can't sanitize the pages.
Right.
Well, the school uses those robots that are the UV.
Right.
Rays. Yeah. Okay.
But their libraries are closed.
Yeah.
But they use them for the classroom.
Yeah.
Yes, they do.
No, I still think the answer is vaccination,
Yes.
vaccination.
I agree.
And since you have been sitting in there for the last 2 days, you probably heard all the discussions about training for the high school kids, trying to get them some job skills. And you had in there, you might work with Workforce Solutions. But if you could work with them and Region 9 and the schools to kind of promote some training or direction for some of these kids.
That would be a fantastic idea.
That'd be really helpful.
I know whenever I worked at the library, the public library in Las Cruces, they had work studies. And they had a couple of kids from the high school that would come and help out in the children's and young adult area. One of the things that's difficult to do that, though, is that our library stays open till 5:30. And so working with them, it's hard for them to be able to get there and get time in. Although when we open back up to the public again and start opening up on Saturdays, that would be a time that they could definitely, we could work with them and see what we could do about that.
That would be great. Yeah.
Diane, thank you so much.
Oh, thank you. We appreciate it.
Thank you.
Yes, sir. Rodney's the team leader of this group, so Rodney, who's up next?
Been told it was me.
Mayor Pro Tem Rodney's the team leader, so Rodney, who's up next?
I thought it was, Justin.
There's Justin.
That's next on my page.
I was just saying that to make sure Rodney was
Paying attention?
Oh, there you go.
more than likely Rodney's multitasking.
Yes, sir. Justin is up next.
Well, now that it's confirmed, all right, boys and girls, let's go. So this is our tactical plan. This is the first time that I have participated in one of these, and so I got Kelly and Carrie and myself together and put together what we really like to see some of the goals achieved over 2021. Overall, I think when people think about team tourism, they really look at us, specifically when people look at marketing in general, they look at it as the advertising component of what marketing is. But we see ourselves as a little bit more than that, because what marketing truly is everything that makes up and creates value within in an industry or in our circumstance, a community. And so some of the stuff you're going to see is directly related to conventional advertising, but some of the other goals that we have in here are actually related to creating a community that really drives value and creates a sense of value within our consumers, and also helps attract new consumers and continue to build year over year. So I think I summed up my purpose statement without rereading it exactly.
Sounds good.
So the first couple goals, they're kind of looped into the Buxton Analytics. So determine the direct impact of lodgers tax funded events to our lodgers tax collections through mobile data analytics, or mobile data analysis. Essentially what I mean by that is, every year we have people coming to us that are looking for funding for their events. They provide us a report and say, this is how many people have come, this is the impact it has to the community, et cetera, et cetera. And we take their word for it. It's hard for us to know. Some of the events we know that have been going on a long time, we can really, we actually know anecdotally how they perform. But with Buxton, this is going to allow us a lot clearer insight into how these events perform, how we can help these event organizers market and advertise, and also just the ideal key segments for them to market and advertise into, as well as to help people identify optimal dates and just strategies for implementing their event, if it's the right fit for the community. So the Buxton tool is going to be an extremely valuable resource. As I stated earlier, we're going to need a $3,000 funding from the Lodgers Tax Board, which I'm very confident that they're going to be willing to allow us. So we'll have access to that platform. And I'll move on to the next one. This is really focusing on marketing and advertising, and we're going to utilize these reports to make more informed marketing and advertising decisions, as I showed you earlier, really finding our key demographics and geographic areas, but also looking at new potential areas of growth. So those blue lines that we saw earlier, what are those new market segments that we can dive into and really grow, so that we can continue to see growth year over year, and we can continue to deliver as a lodgers tax organization. So that's, again, requires the Buxton Analytics and the login. And we're very confident that's going to go through. And then I think this is my last one. Or there's a couple more regarding Buxton.
Hold on on that. Hold on
sure.
on that, Justin. Can you give us the rundown of our geographic marketing area now, where we're sending out our ads and stuff to?
Yeah, no problem. So we've got a big focus in these key areas. It's going to be Texas. Well, right now, Mayor Pro Tem, it's actually, we're not really doing any sort of actual marketing right now.
Right.
But are you talking about just general?
Well, yeah, general. What have we been? Where?
Okay. So our key focus areas are New Mexico, Texas, Colorado, Mexico, and Arizona. And then,
Oklahoma.
Oklahoma. I apologize. So those are kind of our key focus areas right now, and especially with our digital marketing where it's cost effective. We are actually looking at even getting into those markets. We have digital, TV, airport, outdoor, out of home in every single one of those markets. Oklahoma we were going to really open up this year because we've really only been digital marketing in those in that area, and we were going to open up with some TV advertising and look at outdoor, out of home. Which outdoor out of home just is a fancy way to say billboard advertising, bus wraps, stuff like that. Okay. So those are the markets that we've really focused on. With this tool, of course, there's some new areas that we can start growing our digital presence in. And then as we see increased traffic from those areas, we can start looking at additional purchasing strategies.
Okay, sounds good. Thank you.
Okay. Yes, and I'm sorry, I'll pause at the end of each one and make sure there's no questions.
Thank you.
Of course, yes, sir. So this one is really related to understanding the assets and attractions that drive the key segments of tourism to our economy, and really understand how we can work in partnership with those attractions as well as leverage those assets. We can run, like I showed earlier with Ski Apache, we can really look and see what kind of impact does Ski Apache realistically have during the winter? How many visitors are visiting there? Where are they coming from? Is it, we know obviously it is a crucial asset, but we can do that for all of our assets around here to understand how those assets impact our area, and then also understanding how we can create really sound marketing strategies around those. I also, with a lot of our assets being outdoor attractions, understanding how we can maybe diversify our outdoor advertising even more, because one of the sayings that I've fallen in love with is we don't want to love it to death. We don't want to love nature to death. And overrunning some of these assets is not healthy for our economy in the long run. So it's really that environmental stewardship that we can approach by understanding, okay, if mountain biking is really big, maybe we can look at working long-term with Parks and Rec to increase our mountain biking trail potential here. Different things like that, and helping to diversify our tourism economy through understanding these key assets and attractions. Do you have any questions about that?
Any questions?
No.
No. Go on.
Okie dokie. So this one we didn't mention on the call. I do believe the mayor mentioned it briefly, and I didn't get into it because I'd already stolen enough of your time. But utilizing the analytics to determine performance of our statewide competitors, as well as our Southern Colorado competitors. So I would say Pagosa Springs, Wolf Creek, Durango, and Purgatory would be added to that list. Red River, Angel Fire. Just looking at some of the key competitors across the state and into Southern Colorado, and how we compete with those key competitors, and also looking at if we see that there's a lot of potential for more tourist attraction out of Oklahoma, because Red River is seeing a lot of Oklahoma tourism, then maybe we could deploy some marketing strategies to try to attract some of that market segment from Red River to Ruidoso. So that's what's the goal with this strategy is, and that's where I'll let that stand. If you have any questions.
No questions.
Okay, perfect. And that's really just creating a geofence around those areas, just like we did Ruidoso, but we just do it around them and spy on their tourists. I shouldn't use the word spy. It's such a tacky word.
Observe. That's the better word. To observe.
There you go. I like it. To observe. So this is really working with Parks and Rec. I think that coming out of COVID with a lot of unknowns, I think that it would be advantageous for lodgers tax to work directly with Parks and Rec, and to look at potentially funding a stage and some backline equipment. There's a couple reasons why we think that this will be useful. One is I'm concerned for the future of events in the state of New Mexico, as well as a lot of the country. Just with COVID, I think it's likely crushed a lot of these large event organizers. So I think that the village could be a leader, at least early on, where we identify potential holes in our event lineups on shoulder weekends to be able to bring in some events and some different special events utilizing this stage. I also think by having a stage, it's an asset that our Parks and Rec department would be able to utilize to not only attract some of these major events, but also to potentially, not just potentially, but to monetize the stage rental instead of that being outsourced to a third-party company. When I was up at Ski Apache, I threw the last year that they had the Wind Rider up there, and the stage rental alone with the backline is close to $50,000 for the exact same stage rental that Brian Chavez had at the All-American. So it's a substantial amount of money for these folks to get a stage like that. Granted, the stage that I've roughly quoted here with the backline isn't quite as large as that stage. It would be something that would be a little bit more mobile, so we'd be able to utilize it around the village. But But a big hit that we've been doing the past 2 summers, and this summer we unfortunately didn't get to it, was our summer concerts in Midtown. I call it our Midtown Summer Concert Series. And every Saturday we would host an inexpensive band to come in and play music for people in Midtown. And it was just a really good attraction. I would like to look at, the potential of bringing in a stage and doing the same thing in Midtown, and even potentially, I know every time I say this, it raises some eyebrows, but potentially shutting down the street, even if it's just in the evenings on Saturdays, and doing something for people when we are permitted to do so safely. But I think this stage would be a huge asset to be able to achieve that goal.
Justin, Mayor Pro Tem, Justin, do you have that analysis that we conducted for the track where it actually shows Labor Day and Memorial Day, and it shows the impact that the All-American Music Fest brought in?
You know what, Tim? I don't know the exact report that she was looking at, so I can get that report after this, if that's okay, and share it with everybody. I just don't remember the exact one she was looking at. But did you want to speak to it, or would you like me to?
I'd just like to bring that up because from what I recall, when we looked at it, we were trying to look at, biggest economic impact days and whatnot. And, our assumption was it was Labor Day. And then what you actually saw was that, and, you also had Snoop Dogg or somebody like that up at the end at the same time. But with those 2 events, as I recall, if I'm not mistaken, Justin, that was the biggest impact weekend of that year.
When we looked at Brian's 2 events, they were overwhelmingly the largest. So there was one in May, if I'm remembering correctly, and then the one on Labor Day weekend. Right. And it was, we actually had Wingfield Park, a geofenced on Wingfield Park, and it was an enormous, I'm talking through the roof spike in traffic on that weekend, just due to the amount of people in town. And for that event. And then again, the other event that city manager is speaking about was the Ruidoso weekend, when we had Ruidoso, Snoop Dogg, and Two Wheels and Tattoos. Again, these events are they're crucial to putting heads in beds. They're crucial to driving the GRT economy here. And they're major attractions, even more so than just the racetrack or just a single asset. These events are standalone. They're producing massive volumes of people in our community.
And when you look at the racetrack overall, it's huge. But, when you look at the spikes of those single events, it really knocks it off the chart.
Oh, yeah.
Well, it's like, the health of the economy can be equated to what is the thing that goes beep, 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 and make sure you're live. Like, you see kind of these flat times, and every time there's an event, you see a spike, ERG or KRG or whatever it's called. But you see that all along throughout the year, and you're like, that was this event, that's that event. And then you can see those holes, and you think, well, if I could attract even a smaller event in and offset some of their costs by having an affordable stage rental, I think these events are just extremely crucial. But again, us initially stepping up to fill that void, and then, if someone's wanting to come in and take that event over from us, I think that's a conversation we could have at that point, because I don't think we necessarily need to compete. But as Tim always says, we're the government, we're here to help. So if it's something we can do that's not being done and accomplished, let's get that done and throw and host that event during that shoulder weekend, and then try to grow that event economy back to a healthy place as quickly as we can. So again, I just kind of outlined what I thought that, we could do with, assuming if we can get to a place where we can have some music this year. I thought it might be awesome to host the Midtown Summer Concert Series, utilizing this stage, putting it in Midtown, a nice outdoor space, and then hopefully get to where, we could really open up again and have a post-COVID party with the end of Summer Music Festival. There's a lot of communities in Colorado that I would visit these while I was living up there, and they're just a great way to cap off summer. And I think we could do it fairly inexpensively, particularly if we had the stage in the back line. Some other ideas that I've had, and I've held on to these for a couple years, is hosting the Ruidoso Yoga and Wellness Festival. This is something that I think is a lot of untapped potential across the state. There is one in Albuquerque that's well attended, but I think that we could really do something really cool with Parks and Rec, hosting a Yoga and Wellness Festival in this area, and draw quite a few people in. And again, diversification of our audience is crucial here. It doesn't all have to be beer and wine and music, et cetera. I mean, we could do something that's a little bit different and draw a new and exciting crowd to our community. And then I also, I didn't put this on here, but I have been in talks lately with the New Mexico Film Office, and I'll get into that a little bit later. But I think looking long-term at potentially bringing in a film festival to Ruidoso, with the great airport that we have, Spencer Theater. I think that there's some opportunity that we could host a film festival here if we thought creatively and picked the right season to do it. And then one other conversation that I've had quite often with RMA, and we were really wanting to do it this year, but with COVID, everything kind of completely got put on pause. But I think it would be awesome to bring out the Flying J Wranglers and either do a shootout in Midtown before they do their stuff out at the Flying J, and host a big staged, shootout here in Midtown, or work with another organization that's willing to do it for us, just to bring another asset to our community, another attraction that's theatrical, and would help to continue driving why we're a quality brand destination to reach out to. That's all I have for that segment, and I'll stand for questions.
Those are great ideas, Justin.
Thank you. I can sit around and dream all day, so if you guys want to pay me for that, I'm totally into it. So this is
before you go on, when you talked about the Ruidoso yoga, remember to include paddleboard yoga, and what I would like to see, because I just want to see it live, but that Billy Goat yoga, I saw a clip on that somewhere, but anyway.
Well, I went to a festival in Colorado, and granted, it was a first-year festival, but it was music and health and wellness. And I have always wanted a yoga festival ever since I went to it, because it was, you get up in the morning, do your yoga. They actually did have goats at one of the sessions, so it was quite fun. So yeah, I would say that we could really, working with Parks and Rec and having someone like Jasmine in that position to be able to drive that. I'm so excited. I don't know who just texted me. So looking at this, I had mentioned, I've been speaking with the New Mexico Film Office. So if you're not aware, there was huge news just came out yesterday. Albuquerque is now rated the #1 city for film industry in the country. That's #1 large city. Santa Fe is the #2 small city for the film industry in the country. I think that there is a huge potential through the New Mexico Tourism Department for film as a tourism strategy. So not only are you having a lot of these stars coming down here and these films being produced and different stuff like that as a potential clientele to tap into, but the resources or their Instagram, their social profiles, and the organic marketing they would produce would help to continue driving tourism to our area. But then in addition to that, you see a lot of what the tourism department strategy has been to utilize these location sets as tours. So you could actually create a tour utilizing our Visit Widget platform for different film sets across the community. And especially if you're on a really high quality, high budget, high scene, high visibility film. And I think that there's potential there to leverage that as an asset. After conversations with the film office, they want to make me the film liaison for the area, which would basically mean I would be utilized in every aspect of through the film industry. Currently, there are only 7 liaisons in the state of New Mexico, and they're primarily based up north. And so I think it would be very advantageous for us to get involved in that and start being a voice in that industry, particularly with the governor's focus shifting towards film. I mean, I know it's always kind of been that way, but I know that that's one of her key economic driving focuses moving out of COVID.
That's great. That's great, Justin.
Congratulations.
Justin, do you want to tell them about the GMC commercial that just went live?
Oh yes, I should let you know. So there was a GMC commercial that was filmed in partnership with Matador Network and Airstream that they actually filmed at our very own Grindstone Lake and up at Ski Apache. Kelly and I worked directly with the company to help them get the site location secured, along with community development, who provided the permits, and the police department, who were able to go out and notify the citizens and secure the area, and then with our Parks and Rec department. So it was a great opportunity, and that commercial is now live on their Facebook page, Kelly.
Yes, I'll put the link in the chat so you guys can watch it at a later time.
And that's actually going to be a series. So there's one of them currently released, but they're doing a series on it. And so we've got some great shots from our little area right here from that campaign. And that portion of it didn't cost us a dime.
That's great.
So I'll be moving on. This one is something just after officing out of Midtown, and of course, my wife and I own a couple businesses here in Midtown. I really think we need to increase our pedestrian-friendly zones in Midtown, and what I mean by that is I'm not going to go through and ruffle feathers on let's reduce the highway to 3 lanes, blah, blah, blah. I think we need additional crosswalks in our Midtown district. I have heart failure probably once a day when I see a family dragging toddlers across the highway, playing Frogger, trying not to get hit by cars. And I'm not saying that for effect. I'm saying that with sincerity. I also feel it when I bring my grandparents who are in their 70s and not in the best shape. And they don't even want to go explore our Midtown, because to get to one of our shops, you got to walk past it, hit the crosswalk at the light, and come back down. I really think that as a tourism department and from a marketing perspective, we really need to focus on one of our key economic drivers of our community. And to me, it is adding more crosswalks so that people can get across. I know it's a DOT issue. And I know we're going through some changes with the DOT, the head of the DOT down here at our local office. But I really think, I think it would be very advantageous if we advocated for crosswalks. It would help slow traffic down. We need it to be not just striping, but we need full-fledged lit up crosswalks. And I know that they're really advocates for only putting them at the major intersections or where there's a cross street. But I do not think that's adequate for our Midtown district. There are pretty vast expanses between where the crosswalks are located down here. And I think that it would drive more people across the street and visit some shops that maybe they would otherwise skip, or they just risk running across the street, getting hit by a car. So I really want to advocate for that. And I want to figure out who I can work with within the village to try to achieve a plan, or try to achieve that goal. The other thing that I see as something that we could really look at from a community standpoint is adding paid parking. Now, I know it sounds crazy to go from free parking to paid parking, but the vast majority of our consumers all expect to pay for parking when they go into a high commercial area like what we have. The flip side of that is we've seen a great benefit of having paid parking at Grindstone Lake, tremendous revenue generated. I do realize that it would require the addition of somebody that would be checking that parking. But I think that, with what Chief Hooker was talking about with the public safety officer, there may be potential to have a dual role for someone like that, or even just a standalone role in that area. The reason I would advocate for paid parking is a couple things. One is you get a lot of vendors that just park up here on the main strip all day long. I see it because they're the first here in there in the morning, and then they take a lot of parking for people that maybe are not as well equipped or have ADA necessities. The other thing that I think that we could do with that is revitalize some of our lots, restructure some of the lots that aren't as well organized, and then through a third-party organization like RMA or anyone for that matter, we could contract out valet parking in Midtown. The reason I like the idea of valet parking in Midtown is it's a service that I've seen pop up in some of these boutique areas across the country that I visit all the time. Bishop's Arts District in Dallas is one good example, which is a Main Street district. The other thing that it would address is our remote parking lot issue. Some of the problems with people, maybe not wanting to come to Midtown is because some of our parking lots are a little bit more remote. So if we had a valet service and contracted that out, I think that would be an amazing option for Midtown, and it would increase our brand. It gives us more of an upscale brand identity. And it's worked. Again, it's paid parking's worked at Grindstone Lake and the Ruidoso Downs racetrack. The valet service is an amazing asset and a hit down there. So I think it'd be something worth looking at. Another thing that I've looked at is talking with the Parks and Rec about the potential of adding some congregation, fire pit, or seating areas in Midtown. Some of these trees, I absolutely love a lot of the trees, but I think that there are some areas that we might be able to identify where we could put some simple seating and some fire pits. I've seen a lot of communities where they have.
Oh, we lost them.
You're done.
Text them, Rod.
Well, I don't know who the host is. It wasn't me. But we'll see if we can't get back in it.
Sam, are you the host on your laptop?
Yes.
Did your battery run out?
Is my battery dead?
No, it's still on. It just said this meeting has ended. So I don't know what happened. I didn't touch it.
I wonder if Zoom timed us out.
Did you put a timeout on it?
I don't know.
You put a time limit on Justin.
Poor guy.
Now I'm the host.
It just said that the meeting was ended by the host.
It timed out.
Justin's still on here?
I definitely know that.
Justin just talked too long, that's all.
Well, Justin comes back, he finished.
Well, Callie's there.
Oh,
Click, see if you could unmute Callie or.
Yeah, I'm here. I told Justin to try to join back in. There he is.
Okay, good.
How long was I talking?
Well, obviously, if they cut you off, it's like, oh, who's this monotone voice? Just keep on going and going and going.
I'm sorry.
It thought we'd been hacked, I think.
Whoever the host was tired of hearing you, and they just ended the meeting.
I was quickly trying to. I was deleting the messages that were coming in on the screen, and then I realized someone said you're not on anymore. I was like, oh goodness, that's not good. So I don't know if I was talking about the paid parking. Did you hear that?
Yes.
Okay, the seating and congregation areas, that's another thing. I just think it's us continuously developing our product is what I really look at this as, is let's develop our product. Let's identify areas that are, I like the saying, go big, stay scrappy. I don't think we have to do things that are over the top expensive or over the top crazy in order to achieve goals to be very, to have a really quality product, which is Ruidoso. So, the seating and congregation areas, I don't know if you heard me say, but I've seen several of these fire pit areas across the country at places I visited. Cloudcroft just added them in on one of their side streets that they shut down and are, having people have access to. I think long-term for our community, it would be advantageous to look at those. The other things, the art installations, that's another thing that I think we can look at long-term. The mural projects has been great for the community. I think we just need to continue identifying some of these less expensive creative ideas that'll drive the value of our community. Rich Dozier made me think about this in a way. When we were talking about redoing the Midtown District, he said, the communities that Anna and I visit all the time are the ones that maintain who they are, but reinvigorate who they are continuously to drive us back. The ones that stay the same year over the year are the ones that we don't come back to anymore. And I think that that's important for us, is to keep building on who we are, keep building our brand and adding value so that we can continue to evolve as a community and continue to drive folks to our community. I'll go ahead and stand on that and stand for any questions.
Mayor Pro Tem.
Yes.
Justin, I love the seating and the congregation, because I just think that is so neat, because a lot of times, you know, after shopping or whatever, you like to just sit and just watch people go by and be able to have conversations. And I think that's a great idea. It just goes with our community, I think.
Thank you so much.
Go ahead, Justin.
All right, I'll try to pick it up. I think I only have a couple more points here. Yeah, I do. I only have one more point. All right. Let's see. There's that, and then actually, no. I'm all done with my points. We're on to Kelly now. She's in the hot seat.
Okay.
Thank you.
Council Mayor Pro Tem, thank you for letting us join you today. And so the portion I'm going to cover as team tourism is the digital side, and then also on the municipality, some of the PIO duties and PR work. But to start out, we have, for our first goal is for social media growth. And in the last year, currently we have 95,000 followers, and that's on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, and these are just for the tourism department, those channels. And so we'd like to increase that by 10% in this upcoming year. We saw an 8% growth in followers this last year, but would like to increase that a little bit. And just to bring overall brand awareness to the village. Some of the things, though, that in terms of social media and follower growth, we're not seeing the amount of growth we've seen in the past, especially on Facebook, but focusing on some of those other areas like Twitter and Instagram are two that we could really increase our overall audience on. We're almost to 20,000 followers on Instagram, and considering when I took over that account, I think we had 400. I feel pretty good about our growth on that one.
Absolutely.
So our overall goal with that is just to continue with the brand awareness. The next goal we have in terms of social media is in engagement. And so anytime someone likes, comments, shares, or mentions us, that's considered engagement. And so our goal for this upcoming year is to have 2 million engagements. This last year, we saw an increase of 28% over the previous year. And much of that was related to either COVID or to snowstorms. Anytime we have snow, we get a ton of engagement. And so this week is a good week in my world in terms of social media. Now, we don't anticipate seeing that large of an increase in this next year. So that's why our target is just at 20%. But we just want our fans, our overall goal is to share content that resonates with people, and so that they will interact with it, share it to their audiences, like it, and just try to stay top of mind. So this last year, like I said, we had 1.6 million in terms of engagement. We're trying to get to 2 million this year. Then any questions on engagement?
Mm-mm.
No.
Okay. So the next goal and focus area is on conversions. And so how we quantify a conversion in our world is driving traffic to the website. If we were a boutique or a hotel or something where you could purchase something on the website, that would be what we consider a conversion. But since we're actually not selling anything on the website, we're counting a conversion as someone leaves social media and goes to our Discover Ruidoso website. And so our goal for this year is to increase traffic by 20%. with 140,000 visits. Last year, we saw an increase of 45% from social media to the website. And again, much of this is because of COVID and snowstorms. So we don't anticipate that big of an increase, but still want to continue to drive traffic to the website. I know that Justin had mentioned earlier when we were talking about Buxton we kept seeing Las Vegas as one of our top 10 or top 15 areas of people visiting the website from, and we couldn't figure that out. Another one of those areas was LA or kind of Southern California. And we just always joked it was because of Carrie's son, Brooks, who's at USC, and because he lives there. And so it was all of his friends visiting our website. But now looking at the report that's from the racetrack, it really makes sense that a lot of that traffic is probably related to the racetrack, because you have Del Mar, Los Alamitos, Santa Anita, so some of those really big racetracks, and where we know that we get some of that California traffic into Ruidoso for the summer, especially out of Los Al, because a lot of those jockeys and trainers race over there also. So it's going to be nice having that tool to really kind of put together all of the pieces of things that we had theories on are now actually backed up by data, like I said earlier. So we're excited about that. The next focus area for this upcoming year is in terms of social media advertising. And I mean, as every department has said, our strategy had to shift because of COVID-19. And so where before our call to action was always plan your visit, book your lodging, we really had to shift that to more of a brand awareness, public health and safety message. And so that even included making sure our photos and videos were appropriate. So we did a couple different shoots of mask wearing. And so I would say back in, was it March or April, we shifted to the Discover Ruidoso later. And then as things slowly opened up more, we shift more to the mask wearing. And then in the fall, when you could come into the state if you had a negative test, we did open up our advertising a little bit more. In terms of the analytics, you can see that we had a spike this fall in terms of visits and engagement and whatnot. But as we look towards this next year, we anticipate continuing just to educate the out-of-staters, but also in-state of what to expect when you get here, and really focusing on those COVID-safe practices in any of our ads. So like Justin mentioned earlier, right now, the only advertising we do have is related to Ruidoso Safe. And then we just got some going to encourage people to register for the vaccine. And so that's more of a local focus. But overall, we just, in any of our target areas, had been to focus on the Ruidoso Safe. And really anticipate we'll continue to do that for the next foreseeable future. Any questions on advertising or social, or I guess digital advertising or social, before I go into some of the municipality stuff?
I just have a comment, is that those postings for Ruidoso Safe on Facebook are really good. I really like them. I share them when it pops up. And then also the commercial with our employees wearing the mask and us advertising that. I mean, I don't know how far we send those out to, if it's in state or part of West Texas or what, Kelly, but I mean, I think those are excellently done and really show that we're taking our stance on adhering to the mask covering and social distancing.
Yeah, I would say just kudos to the village for really being, the forefront of that in terms of overall across the state. And yes, we have kind of two iterations of the commercial. We had one with it felt more like some of our other commercials where people were just in masks and kind of a what to expect when you get here. And then now we have the one with the first responders. And so we've had both of those going at different points throughout this last year. But currently the one with the first responders we have it locally, and then we have it across New Mexico.
Okay, thank you.
Mayor Pro Tem, those commercials also ran in our key markets where we had some television advertising. So wanting to stay top of mind and knowing that our visitors are not going to just stop coming to us because there's the governor has, put in a quarantine. We definitely wanted to run as much advertising we could to try to, along with the village policy, create an educational component to it, saying, hey, this is what it is here. This is how you do it here. And trying to publish that as widely as we could to our demographics.
Great. Thank you.
Yeah, and anticipating that the mask wearing is also going to continue. We have that video, the commercial that Justin shot, and then the photos that we'll be able to utilize this spring as we kind of start talking about summer.
And if y'all haven't seen the billboard at the Y, I would recommend driving by. Alden did a great job with that billboard down at the Y, so it's been updated. So if you haven't seen it, run down there and go check it out.
Yes, I noticed that this past weekend. Very good.
And that billboard is one that the chambers utilized in the past, and Becky has said that that we can put our creative on it kind of moving forward. So for now, we anticipate that one staying up. But that gives us a good way to serve as kind of a welcome to the community.
Good.
And then I'm going to cover some of the part that Carrie had put together. So one of the areas is for the overall municipality for the website. And so our goal is to continue to drive traffic to the ruidoso-nm.gov. And keep maintaining it as kind of the source for all village news. In the last year, that website has really become a workhorse for all things COVID, especially in the beginning. And since it has continued to develop between the public health side, the economic side, the Ruidoso Safe elements are all housed there. And so we continue on from anything from road closures to public meetings to COVID safe practices. We really want to drive all of that traffic through the website. And so, we want to continue to develop that website and really have it be a tool for the residents to find the information that they're looking for.
Very good.
And I know we've had a lot of conversation the last 2 days of like, how do we get information out to our residents? How are they, well informed and educated of what the village is doing? One area I know we've talked a lot about is social media. So we do have a goal to continue to increase our fans and followers on that by 10%. So for the village purposes, we have a Facebook and a Twitter page. Right now we're at a little over 10,000 for those two platforms, and we'd like to get over 12,000 in this next year. Last year we saw a big increase of 42%, and a lot of that was just related to COVID. Those are always for the past year were the highest indirecting posts, I guess you could say.
Kelly.
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem, if I may.
Yes.
Kelly, I had thrown an idea out there to Carrie about, with our social media campaigns where we're doing marketing in different areas, you guys have used social influencers to kind of drive the message. On the PIO side, on the local Facebook, I had suggested that maybe we start to get, people to, just like Councilor Salas is saying, share the links and, create social influencers locally that are going to be pushing our messages. So, I've noticed that, when people, that video that we shot, that we had the first responders involved with, once people started sharing that, you really saw the bumps of likes and views really bumping up. So, I think by trying to employ some of that type of a strategy to the local information, is an idea that I had thrown out there. Has she mentioned that, or you guys had any discussions around that, you or Justin?
We have. We've talked about, what that would look like. Is it a formal program like we kind of do with our influencers on the tourism side, or is it, more of an informal where we would share the link or the post to people, prominent within the community and ask them to share it. I know that the chamber is really good about sharing a lot of the stuff that comes out of the village, both Becky on her personal page, but then also on the chamber page. And so with her position in the community, that's one that's good. Justin, did you have anything in terms of?
Yeah, I think
that we talked about.
I think in terms of like local ambassador project is kind of how I would look at it, as being like a local ambassador project. The issue with Facebook's algorithm is that you have to have a substantial following in order to get your message really spread out there. So it actually feeds itself is the way it works. So that's the hard thing, because realistically even with local ambassadors, your message is only being delivered to less than 10% of your overall audience organically on Facebook. So I do think that there's some potential there. And if we could figure out a way to incentivize or recruit, or even if it's village employees or village directors that are I guess disseminating that information, that's the way we could achieve it. But I honestly, what I think is going to be the best overall is if we build some money into the budget and we really work from a VOR standpoint on disseminating information out digitally, a lot like we do our tourism strategy, but here locally in the village of Ruidoso. So to me, that seems like would be the most effective way for us to really reach as many people, at least on Facebook, as possible.
Great.
And we've done some of that with, especially with the, wear a mask, get tested, register for the vaccine, targeting some of our local audiences in a paid capacity. So moving on to the next in terms of go back up. I don't think I did that one. Yeah. In terms of engagement, we also have set a goal on for the municipality side of 300,000 engagements. Again, that's a like, a comment, a share. We were really beat up a lot this last year on Facebook, starting early on in the pandemic. And then, I would say that in the last couple months, maybe people have the same pandemic fatigue that a lot of people have. And so they don't have the energy to fight with us about wearing a mask online anymore. Or, now that Grindstone is technically reopened, like they don't have that to complain about.
That was a killer.
But just really anything, there was a lot of complaining. So my hope for 2021 is that maybe we don't have as much engagement, and then when we do, it's more positive, or that two-way information of getting communication and getting information out to the public, and maybe not as so divisive and angry. Any question on the haters on Facebook?
This is Jackson, only one. You cannot fix stupid.
Yes. Yeah, it was a tough year to be a social media manager, I will tell you that. Okay, so moving on to the next one, in terms of public relations, we want to really focus on using the new analytics software, the Buxton, that we talked about, to get to target our PR campaigns. And so, finding those different areas, I think that the coverage that we've had in terms of the vaccine rollout and fusion and some of that national media, I'll talk a little bit more about how we did that later on in this presentation, but really just using the analytics and, figuring out what those key markets are, and identifying new markets. And so that's, pitching it. Right now we have, our strategy is a lot of local and regional media, but how can we, continue to reach out to Arizona? That's how we got some coverage, not this last year, but the year before, and to continue to grow that earned media. So media tracking and analysis, we use a platform called Cision, and we've used it in terms of the media distribution for the last couple of years. So it's basically a platform that we can send out a press release on. So a lot of, for the local or regional, because we have those relationships, we'll just email the release. So if we're trying to get to the Ruidoso News and anyone in, Albuquerque, El Paso, et cetera, we'll just reach out to those reporters because we know a lot of them on an individual basis. But if we're trying to get to a larger audience, we can build a different list. So if we're trying to, we have one that's weathermen and women that are weather people. I don't know what we call them now.
Weather folks.
Yeah. So for West Texas and New Mexico, that we have a list of that. Or if it's related to a music festival, we have one that's entertainment and music. So we can send these releases out to the reporters that are covering a specific niche or audience, rather than just shooting from the hip and just sending it everywhere. So when Carrie was pitching the Fusion story, she used this tool to get it out to different health reporters across the country. And so one of the things that we've added to our subscription decision is tracking and analysis. And so at the upcoming Lodgers Tax meeting, we'll have the first report using this software that basically shows, how much coverage we had in a certain time period. It's really a lot like the Buxton Analytics, but from a media tracking standpoint. So it tells you if it's newspaper or TV or radio or social media, and then also like what the overall sentiment was. Was it positive or negative or neutral? So it gives us an idea of how the overall brand is being perceived to the larger audience. Any questions on Cision or media tracking and monitoring?
No, keep on going.
Okay. And then in terms of PIO duties, Carrie and I will continue to serve as the PIO for the village and then the fire department and the police department. We will continue to provide that on-scene support for any all calls, and continue to provide support, for the non-all calls, but that need any sort of information issued to the public or to the media. That's our main thing, is to be transparent and to get the information out from the different departments in a timely manner so that our community continues to be informed and educated.
Mayor Pro Tem, if I may, real quick, they do an awesome job.
Great. Thank you, Chief.
Thank you, Chief.
Hey, why didn't you pipe up when I offered your PSA up for ticket duty for parking?
Well, I was still excited about the being on a billboard or being in a movie.
There you go. That's good. Any questions for Team Tourism or? Wow. Very done job. Good. This afternoon. Kelly and Justin and Carrie. Did Carrie leave, I guess?
Yeah, she had another meeting, and so she had to hop off. So that's why I covered both hers. Probably not as thoroughly as she would.
You did a great job, I would say.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you
for your time.
Yeah, thank you to all three of you. You do a great job. I appreciate all of the wonderful ideas and things that you bring to our community. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thanks, guys.
Manager Dodge, I'm going to take a 10-minute break. I need to stretch around and wake up from after that delicious lunch.
Sounds good to me. Would you all turn your mics off, please?